This is Pod Populi, podcasts for the people.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Healthy Pod, my friends. Today, I am joined by someone who radiates light, grit, and humor. Honestly, one of my favorite people on earth, the incredible Limore Twena. She is a mom, an artist, a singer, a jewelry designer, a motivator, and the author of the powerful new audiobook, Aggressive Positivity, which chronicles her deeply personal and somehow still a little bit humorous journey through breast cancer. What I love about Limore is that she is an authentic ray of light. She doesn't sugarcoat anything, but she also refuses to let life steal her joy. Her story is not just about surviving, but about thriving with humor, hope, and honesty. So if you've ever faced a hard moment or a million, this is your reminder that sometimes the best medicine is a little sass, a lot of honesty, and a truckload of glitter and aggressive positivity. So let's welcome Limore Twena to the pod. Welcome.
Hey, thank you for having me. I'm so honored to be on your show. And Nicole, you are also someone who I hold in the highest esteem and am inspired by your journey and your transformation and your consistently positive and grit-filled way of approaching life. And I really appreciate you and I miss you.
I miss you too. Limore and I used to live in the same neighborhood in Toronto. We used to go on these amazing walks in Miami when we were both just visiting as kind of tourists. And we used to talk about all the things, life, love, fun, music, all of the best things. And honestly, she taught me so much. So when I heard that her book, Aggressive Positivity, was now an audiobook, I said, Limore, I have to have you on the Healthy Pod because I think there's so much depth. And Limore, the title Aggressive Positivity has always hit hard from the first moment I saw the book, read the book. In the very best way, it hits hard. What does that phrase mean to you in your life now?
So something that I want to explain about aggressive positivity is that it's not about glossing over difficult moments and saying, oh, just be positive, everything is going to be okay. It's actually about facing your challenges head on with a type of strategy. So the book and the audiobook, I give a step-by-step explanation of how to tackle those challenges in a way that is, it's almost formulaic. If you wanted the 30-second aggressive positivity recap so that you don't have to read the book or the audiobook to just get a taste of it, the idea is first to flip your mind. And you have to think of the opposite state of mind of what you're going through. And I'm talking about serious things like whether it's divorce, financial hardship, health crisis. So in my case, it was a health crisis. And I told myself, I'm not sick, I'm healing. I'm healing, I'm healing, I'm healing, I'm healing. That's the positivity part. But where the aggressive part comes is an action. So you have to actually take physical actions that give you a tremendous boost of energy in order to keep your thoughts positive. And the reason it has to be aggressive is those actions that you take have to be larger than the challenge that you're facing. So if you can imagine a health challenge like I had cancer, it's seems like a mountain. Well, in order to overcome that cancer, I have to take actions that are far greater than that cancer. And that's why it has to be so aggressive. So for me, I found that if I did something like sing, so for me, that action of an action of love that gives me a huge boost of energy is singing. And so I would schedule that singing before chemo, during chemo, after chemo, right before surgery, 3 days after major surgeries, because I found that it was so powerful. It gave me something to look forward to that was more powerful than my challenge. And if you can find that thing that gives you that energy, and it can help you overcome the most difficult of challenges. And I think in today's world, we each have to find that activity that gives us energy. And why do we need so much energy, you might ask? Have you ever noticed that when you wake up tired, if let's say you had a night where you only had a couple of hours of sleep, did you ever notice that that's the day that you spill your coffee on your white pants? That's the day you mess up in your meetings. That's the day
Absolutely.
when you make some business mistakes that cost you later. And it's because you need physical energy in order to have clarity of thought, in order to be able to weed out those negative thoughts that come in your mind. I kind of feel like, everybody has an angel and a devil in their own head.
Yep.
And when you have physical energy to battle the devil, you can say, oh, that's silly, because we all get those thoughts, the insecure thoughts, fearful thoughts, envious thoughts. And when you get those thoughts in your head, when you have your full energy, you're able to say to yourself, oh no, I should be confident walking into that meeting because I have this and this trait about me, or I don't have to be envious of that person. Everybody has their own path, and I have my blessings and they have theirs. And I need to be just happy with them. But when you have all your energy, you can do that. But that's why when you're sick or when you're going through a hard time, you tend not to sleep. You tend to be so stressed out.
Yep.
So, how can you battle those demons within yourself? It's very difficult. And when you're in that negative spiral, everything that happens in your life just seems to reinforce that negative spiral. So that's why breaking it is so incredibly difficult, and why it takes a measure of aggressive action, physical action, even going against your natural instinct.
I absolutely love that. I think that explanation is beautiful and also can give our listeners and our audience the best advice when it comes to self-talk and how to get out of that negativity, get out of that spiral that happens to so many of us. And I love what you said about energy. Find that something that you love so much that you're looking forward to it above and beyond any challenge. And in fact, you want to overcome any challenge to get to that joy, which I am obsessed with. And I love that that was singing for you. And what I want to say is that this is not about toxic positivity. I think
No.
that this is something very different. It's not like everything is rainbows and sunshine all day, every day. It's not about that.
No.
This is
No.
about energetic action. And that's why I loved the book so much, because we can take so many lessons from this journey. And so something else, and a lesson that I love myself, is a lesson about humor. So you said humor saved you.
Yes.
Can you share a moment during your journey or during treatment where laughter completely shifted your energy?
So I had to get my ovaries out, and because of that, I got plunged into early menopause at 40. And with that came all the symptoms of menopause, which included waking up at night 5 times a night with these hot flashes. And I would literally be head to toe soaked in sweat. And it was very difficult to fall back asleep because it's almost like you feel like you just ran a marathon, and
Wow.
you can't cool yourself down. And then by the time you cool yourself down, I was waking up again. And so I went to the doctor who removed my ovaries, and for a checkup after the surgery. And he asked me how I'm doing. And I told him what I'm going through. And he's like, oh, no problem. I can prescribe Dixarit. I looked at him like, "Oh, excuse me? Say what?" And he's like, I can prescribe Dixarit. And me and my sister, we started howling. We're like, it's like killing ourselves laughing. He said, why are you laughing? I said, doctor, you don't see the humor in the fact that you want to prescribe me dicks are it? And then he's like, if you tell me a joke about vaginas, I'll get it, but dicks, I'm out. And, I find that, laughing with yourself, laughing at your situation, it helps you take things a little bit lighter. It doesn't have to be so doom and gloom, because, in fact, all these people in the hospital are saving my life. They saved my life.
Yeah.
Angels. These people function on a higher level of being. They have the most amazing ability to let's say, filter out their own challenges that they're going in their life, and then going in there and doing such particular, meticulous jobs to save my life. And so coming in there with the heaviness, I understand how you can do that, but there's also another way. And
Absolutely.
and there's no one right way. And I'm not saying that any which way that you happen to handle your challenges is wrong or right. There's no such a thing. But what I'm talking about is just that you can bring humor. These guys are dying to laugh. I met at a charity event, I met these two very famous oncologists from the US. And I mentioned to them my nickname after all my surgeries and all this is Mo Hip, One Tit. And they looked at me like, what do you mean? You let people call you Mo Hip, One Tit? I'm like, yes, because I only have one side, and I joke about it. I think it's something that, it's not my fault what happened to me. And if you can make light of things, then maybe you can see it in a lighter way and not take it so
Absolutely.
heavy.
Absolutely. I guess I want to ask you a little bit about motherhood through your journey. Particularly, we all as moms go through stuff, some really heavy, some not so heavy, but still impacts our mood, impacts the way we parent, it impacts the way we see our children, or what we give to our children. Can you share a little bit about how aggressive positivity, as you were developing this strategy, how did that impact your parenting style and, your kids?
So it's funny you ask about parenting and aggressive positivity. And what I found is that actually, in these teenage years of my three daughters, this is when it's the most helpful. They actually remember me going through everything. They were 7, 5, and 3, but they remember me dancing through uh, shaving my head. We made it into a fun, I call it sheep shearing day, where they each got a chance to shear my head. And they see me with all of my bodily imperfections, present myself in a confident way. And so when they come to me and they have a pimple on their head, it's
Yeah,
an interesting conversation where I'm like, you've seen what I deal with and what I walk around with, and you see me being confident and you see me being okay with myself. And I think that you can be okay with yourself with that blemish on your forehead that's going to go away. And I
yeah,
promise it will go away. And so it does give me a little bit of parenting points.
I
It's
love
like
that.
I have something in my bag, but I don't pull that out often,
No,
unless it's something major. But I think that they just, by osmosis, see how I am
it's
about
all about
everything.
mirroring, right? I feel like they're mirroring the
Yeah, like I
aggressive,
can't teach
positive
them
person.
anything that I don't embody myself. And that's not to say that I don't have my days where I feel insecure or sad, or, we all have those, like, I don't feel so pretty today days.
Yeah.
Um, but I make sure they know that if I am having one of those days where I'm feeling extra confident about myself, I tell them, I'm like, oh, today I felt really great about myself. And it helps them. Then they share about themselves. And so I think with my parenting, the idea that nothing is insurmountable. It's Viktor Frankl has that famous quote from his book that if you have purpose, then the how um, can the way to your purpose is always doable. And I know that
Absolutely.
that's something that helps a lot of people get through the most difficult times. And so I think that knowing who you are and what your superpower is so important for the world to know. Every single individual person to know what their gift is to the world. And when you know that gift, you can develop it, hone it, share it, and that will give you a type of enjoyment from giving that you don't get from anything else.
I love that. I feel like this book is a gift. I truly do, because we all sometimes need a strategy to help us get through some really challenging times in our lives. And I wanted to ask, is there a particular part of the book that readers often tell you really stuck with them? And why do you think it lands so deeply?
It's interesting. Every single person has a different part of the book that hits them.
Mm.
And I think it's because we are all so different, like a fingerprint, our DNA, our culture, our beliefs
Yes.
are different. And so some people are struck by the humor. Some people are struck by my ability to forgive everyone in my life for anything that happened in my life. So if you were the kind of person that carried a lot of grudges or anger towards people for reasons that could be completely valid,
Mhm.
maybe they tuned into that part of the book and could resonate with that. And I think that the book lands so deeply with so many people is that I don't know anyone that hasn't gone through something incredibly challenging. And I feel that our challenges are what shape us. And when we come through our challenges, we always learn something. So those lessons are what shapes how we lead our life in the future. And I will say that going through breast cancer has given me, let's just say, I've always been a positive person, but it
Mhm.
made me a more like it sharpened and refined the way that I think and how I approach different things. And the smaller things that used to bother me are less bothersome now because I have a new perspective. It's not that those things are better or worse, it's just the way that I see them.
Sure, it shapes you.
Yeah, and and just like with jewelry, we're all like a rough diamond, and every experience that you get through in life gives you a new angle, like a new facet on a diamond until you shine so brightly. And it's only because of your perspective. And it's so, again, it's not what you go through, it's how you decide to go through it that will shape how you come out at the end.
I love that.
And
It's not what you go through, it's how you decide to get through it. I think that's a mic drop moment because so many of us wallow in the what
yes.
versus deciding, distinctively and definitively deciding on the how am I going to overcome, surpass, and thrive through this. So I love that. On that, I'm going to take a quick break from our sponsors
Okay.
and we'll be right back. All right. And we're back with Limore Twena, the author of Aggressive Positivity. And we've just been discussing beautiful things from the book that we've learned. And I wanted to share one of my favorite quotes from the audiobook, which was, "My cancer didn't care about my calendar, but neither did my joy." Can you talk to us and take us into the moment behind that line?
You know, when you get faced with a challenge, nobody asks you if it's a good time. Sometimes people would ask me, "Oh, how do you know when you're ready for kids?" You're never ready.
Never.
You're never ready.
It's
And you're
true.
never ready for the challenges. And so I decided to insert joy
Mm,
where you might think it doesn't belong. So for example, I didn't choose my chemo calendar, but what I did choose was to do karaoke chemo. So I was on a dose dense type of chemo, which meant that it was a 4 hour long process. And at the end of those 4 hours, I was usually the last one left in the ward. And so I had about, an hour of me and the nurses and my dad. And we would start singing and we would start bringing up karaoke songs. And
I love
I
it.
know it seems crazy, but we would try and enjoy being stuck in a place and not being able to go anywhere. So I kept asking myself, rather than, oh, look at what happened to me, I would ask myself, what can I do? Even within the
Absolutely.
situation, what can I do? So about a year ago, I broke my leg and my foot, my fifth metatarsal, and it was like a really clean break. And rather than look at myself and say, "Oh, poor me, I can't work out or I can't run or I can't," I'm like, what can I do with this broken foot? And so I developed all these different exercises that I could do with one leg stable and then the other leg
I
moving.
love it.
And
Building
so
stability.
building, yes. And so within any challenge that we face, we can always think about, within this terrible situation, what can I do?
Right.
What am I able to do?
I
And
love
with
it.
AI, there's an incredible amount of things that we could do, even just with our words. We can write books from a hospital bed. You can even, there's now new technologies that with your thoughts, with a special sensor that can sense your nerves. It's crazy. I watched a TED talk about this new technology that you can create things with your thoughts. So I
Yes.
think that our future is going to be so bright because each individual person is going to be able to become a little mini creator of anything and everything. And that future is coming fast and furious. And that's
Yes.
why I think it's hyper important for all of us to understand our superpowers because me and you are going to create the world that people will want to live in.
I love that.
And I think that another thing that I talk about a lot is that I don't hate, I create.
Oh my God, you're dropping bars today, girl.
And so I choose to spend all of my energy creating things for myself and for all those around me, because I feel that creation is something that is so explosive and contagious, and
Yes.
it's way more contagious than hatred. And so I think that if each individual person spends every waking moment creating beauty, creating love, and fighting off that little devil on your shoulder in order to expand the good voices in your head, we're going to live in a really incredible world if all of us take that in an aggressive fashion,
I love it.
spend every waking moment creating. Then we're gonna see major changes very fast. It's almost instantaneous when you think about when you put prompts into all these AI programs that are out there. There is insane amounts of goodness that we can create at the tip of our fingers.
I love this perspective because there is so many negative perspectives. Oh, the robots are going to take over the world or this or that. And I love this shift again in an aggressively positive way that we can use these tools to make everything better. So I want to dig into, you mentioned superpower.
Before you ask one more question, I
Yes.
just want to dig into that for one moment. Every single technology that has ever been developed or created has the positive parts about it and
1000%.
the negative connotations, including the nuclear bomb, nuclear fission that created nuclear energy. But then there was also the nuclear bomb that was created. So I think that it's up to us to look
Yes.
for the positive uses of it, and and people like me and you have to work extra hard and
Extra
extra
hard.
quickly so that we create a balance of energy towards the positive rather than the negative.
Yes. And so firstly, that's why I love that you're here, because honestly, I feel like the divine brought you here. Hashem brought you here today because I feel like I needed a little bit of Limore energy. But I also I wonder about superpowers. I think sometimes that is so hard to find deep within. How do we all find that superpower that you mentioned? And do you have advice on really grasping onto that, digging deep and understanding what a person's superpower is?
Interesting that you said that. So I am working through a concept right now. It's taking shape. I'm calling it the flood.
Ooh.
The idea, it's biblical. The idea is that during the biblical flood, God had to literally wipe out the entire world in order to bring forth a new future. Now, I don't suggest we wipe out the world or the negativity or the negative behavior. What I think should happen, just like water, is that we have to renew ourselves, almost like um, give ourselves a good shower and shower off all the negativity in order to see the positivity. And if we all help each other see each other's superpowers and name them, then we're going to create a flood of positivity. And so I was thinking that I would do a online 60-second flood challenge where you have to grab one or two friends. They have to name your superpower within
Ooh.
30 seconds. Like, you put a timer, like, what do you think it is? And once they found it, then they have to douse you with water. But screaming out your superpower. So Nicole is like, you're the ultimate connector of people. Boom. And you get doused with water.
I love
And
it.
then you are receiving from your family, friends, whoever around you, what they perceive as your superpower is. And so, because sometimes we're so shy and we're so humble, or I find that women in general, no, I don't want to say that. Not women in general, but sometimes we're apologetic for our strengths. And I
It's
feel
true.
like we sometimes need an extra boost for someone to say, hey, you know what, you're really
I
incredible.
love it. We should start the challenge.
So let's do it.
I love it. I
And it
mean,
can be so instantaneous. Imagine, and the way I envision it is, my teenage daughters, they did this water
the mental health
ice bucket
challenge. Yeah.
This is the flood challenge, and we're flooding our world with our superpowers and what we do well. And if I know that you're a good connector of people, then if everybody knows that that's your superpower, then guess what? People are going to turn to you more and more now that they know that that's what everyone says your superpower is.
I love it. I love it. I think that's great. I also think it's sometimes nice to understand the positivity and how people perceive you in that positivity, because like you said, sometimes everyone has a moment of lower self-esteem or questions, who they are or what they're meant to do or their purpose. And I think the way others perceive you is such a strong indicator so that you can dig deep and you can actually create this vision, because once you understand your purpose, once you understand your superpower, then you can begin to explosively share that with the world in a positive way. So I love, love, love that. You mentioned something a little bit about women, but in the book you wrote, the world tells women to be quiet about pain. I decided to laugh louder instead. I love that boldness. And for me, it's inspiring. And I talk about the fact that women, we're always told to shrink ourselves, get skinnier, get smaller in a room. You don't necessarily have a voice in a corporate setting. And I love the boldness of, I decided to laugh louder instead. How did you get that boldness? Where did it come from?
The boldness to laugh in the face of pain, the boldness to dare be loud about what I'm going through, I think came from the way that I was raised, the role models around me. And I was so fortunate to have strong female role models, and not only female, but male role models as well.
Absolutely.
And I think that helped shape me, and which is why I want to, not everybody has the privilege of having good role models in their life. And so it's much more difficult to overcome those challenges if you don't have that guidance, which is why I want to share this knowledge, because I do have such a well-rooted, value-driven upbringing. I have a grandmother from my mom's side who went through the Holocaust. She was in a women's camp disguised as a Christian woman. That's how she hid uh, by being by taking on a Catholic woman's identity.
Wow.
And she ended up in a women's only concentration camp where they did experiments, because Hitler's next plan was the Christians. So it never stops at the Jews, it continues. So his next plan was to eliminate all the Catholics. And so she was extremely resilient. She passed away when I was 11.
Wow.
And she was an extremely warm, loving human who never talked about her experiences. She never shared her pain. She actually shared her joy with us as children. And my grandfather actually, this is a book that I wrote um, together with my cousin Michael Melnick and Faith Dantowitz, who edited it for me. It's called By My Mother's Hand, and my grandfather talks about his experiences and he survived crazy things. I reread his book during Hanukkah, which is the Festival of Lights, with a new perspective in mind. I looked for the miracles without which he wouldn't have survived.
Wow.
And I counted 36 miracles. And one of those miracles was surviving 10 days without food and water on a transport truck. 10 days. He was the only one left. When they opened the
Oh my
doors, he
God.
was sitting on dead people. And so that's why I'm here. And he talks about how intolerance left unchecked leads to stories like mine. And he's the kind of person that when I look at him, I think if he went into a German movie theater and blew himself up in revenge for the 300 plus people in his circle of life that were murdered, he literally is the only one left from his entire circle. I don't know how I would judge him if he did that in a fit of rage and insanity. But instead, what he did was he built a family. He got married, he raised children, he put them through university, and then he went around universities and high schools and homeless shelters talking about tolerance and love and learning to accept each other. And I think that those are the lessons that are still valid today, and they drive me. And I remember, I always remember
I love
what
it.
he did with his pain. He didn't take it and make us feel guilty and increase his hatred. He did the opposite. And that's what we need to do, the exact opposite. We don't hate, we create.
We don't hate, we create. I love it.
We don't hate, we create. And that's what we need to continuously do. I also have a grandmother from my dad's side of the family who had MS. And she had MS for 30 years during a time before medicine was available for it. And the doctors gave her they gave her 5 years to live, and she lived 30.
Wow.
And what she used to do is flood her life with music and with photos of her grandchildren on the wall so that when she would wake up, she'd have these 11 by 14 huge blown up portraits of us. And we used to ask her,
Incredible.
why do you have these photos of us so big on your wall? And she used to say, I need to remind myself why I wake up every morning. And that's back to Viktor Frankl's philosophy that when you know the why, the how is easy to get through.
Easy to get through. That's beautiful. I feel like
Not easy. I don't even know if it's easy, but it's at least you have a clear path.
you have a clear path. It's possible. You know it's possible.
Anything is possible. And listen, it is possible even for negativity to work in that way. There are people that will literally die for a negative cause or a negative reason, but we have to use that in the positive way.
Agreed. I think your message is just so clear around aggressive positivity in every facet of life. I absolutely love that. I guess I wonder, I know you talked about, not every day is perfect. Not every day are you aggressively positive, but sometimes you might need to turn the day around. And when it is a positive day, you make an extra effort to share that with your family and to really rein in that positivity. But I guess my question is, do you have a daily routine that you do to maintain your health and composure and positivity that you can kind of share with our listeners?
Sure. I actually don't step out of bed before saying a couple of prayers, which are my form of meditation. So the first prayer that I say is I thank the Creator for putting my soul back in my body.
Yeah.
Because
I say the same one.
that when you sleep, your soul goes somewhere else to a higher dimension. So I thank the Creator for putting that soul back in my body. I say another prayer, which is to elevate all the sparks of all the good deeds I've done up until that point and give me my new mission of the day. And then I say another quick prayer. All of this takes 6 minutes. I say another prayer that basically thanks the Creator for everything that I have, everything that I am, everything that is possible. And sometimes I insert my own extra little prayers within there. If someone has a health crisis or a financial crisis or whatever crisis people have, there's crises all around.
All around.
And so that sets me in a way of gratitude. So I start off, my first step out of my bed is in gratitude because I feel that I have an obligation to walk the earth in that way, especially after being saved and healing from my cancer journey. I feel that the only way I can walk is in gratitude, and that helps shape everything and everyone in front of me. And even if someone comes in my path that day that seems negative, I think of it as a lesson. What do I need to learn here?
I love it. I think that's amazing.
And
I
sometimes I'll walk out of the first thing that happens to me when I start driving, someone will cut me off and honk and be very, loud about it. And I'm like, "Ooh, what do I what do I need to learn from this?
right.
Why was that person put in my path? Oh, maybe I need to slow down
Maybe.
today.
And you know
Maybe I need
what?
to be a
People are
bit."
going through lots of stuff. So giving people grace is so critically important because maybe that person was driving to an emergency or something like that, right? So
You never know.
you never know. You
You
never
never
know.
know. And then sometimes I'll do something really small to shift the energy. So if I feel like it's an extra heavy day, sometimes you feel,
Yeah.
and I need to shift that. So that morning when I go to my Tim Hortons to get a coffee, I'll buy the coffee for the person behind me. The small little thing.
Small little things.
Small. It's for me, the small little things are what adds up.
I agree. I
I always
agree.
ask myself, what did I do to earn this marriage, earn this job, earn this family that I have, earn this? So I'll do something small. It could be something small, like fill up my husband's water bottle without him asking.
Absolutely.
It's something so small, but those little small things that you do for people, they add up pretty quickly
Pretty
into
quickly.
something very significant. And again, it comes back to battling your own little devil in your head. We all
Yeah.
have him. It's there.
Yeah. Absolutely. I will tell you that gratitude, particularly in the morning, has really changed my mental health, has changed my outlook, and has also changed the way I kind of deal with the day. I think, when I probably maybe 2 years ago started with my gratitude practice, and similar to you, saying prayers in the morning. And I cannot tell you how much it's helped me just see the positivity because I am grateful. So to anyone out there who, doubts meditation or doubts a practice like this, I urge you to try it. Just give it a chance, because you'll see that within a few days of doing something like this, these positive practices, these gratitude practices, your life will start to shift. I actually created a journal called Gratitude Sparks, and it's a gratitude journal. So I kind of really love this piece of the puzzle that really does talk about gratitude. I have a couple more questions left. One is about,
I just want to mention, I
yes,
want to add to that,
yes,
that
tell
there's
me.
a book called The 5 Minute Journal that I did.
Oh,
I was gifted by a friend last birthday, and I was using that for a good year. And it's a very helpful way if you don't have prayers and if you're not into that. Like, everyone has their own
their
way to
own
get to
thing, totally.
gratitude, and there's no right or wrong way. That it's just you want to get to the place where you feel gratitude. How you get there is not important. The goal, again, the
Absolutely.
goal, the what is important.
I love it. The other thing that, if we're talking about hints, the other thing at the dinner table, I always ask my kids, what are you grateful for today? So that kind of
I love that.
opens up, because we do try and have dinner most nights together. Sometimes it's a challenge, but we know that we talk about best parts of our day, biggest opportunities of our day, and what are we grateful for. And
That's
so
so nice.
it's nice because it opens up conversation with the kids, but also teaches them the gratitude that they can have for things around them. But something I wanted to ask you, and everyone has a day where they make a mistake, something
Yes.
they do that they're not happiest with. Like, I will tell you, I'm sure I have cut someone off in the recent past trying to get somewhere, and it's not something that I want to do. It's an error, it's a mistake. And then I eat myself up. I'm like, why did I do that? I didn't have to do that. I put my life at risk. Or, that's kind of a small example, but if you have a moment where you've made a mistake, how do you turn it around and say, you know what, I'm going to do better? Or is there something a practice that you have to forgive yourself?
I'm trying to think of a mistake. Sometimes I'll say the wrong word to my daughters,
Yeah.
when I'm trying to talk to them about life, and sometimes their perspective is so different than mine that my words come out wrong, but the intention is good. I think that we have to remember that we're all so busy trying to be our best selves within the tools and environment that we've been given. And we will make mistakes, and that's okay. We're human. That's why we're on earth. If we were perfect, we'd be angels and we wouldn't be on earth anymore.
Yep.
And so I think that our mistakes are our greatest opportunities to make right on things, learn lessons, grow from them. And as long as you're growing from your mistakes, then they're actually your way, your ticket of gaining another facet on your diamond. You're going to be shinier after that. So look forward to learning from within that pain.
I love it. So I always say to the kids that, if they say, oh my God, I'm going to fail, like a test or something like that, I say, don't say fail. It's a first attempt in learning, FAIL, first attempt in learning. So for me, mistakes are inevitable. We all make them, like you said, but as long as we learn from them and we grow from them and we get a little shinier, which I love, that is what it's all about. So I'm going to take one more quick break and then we'll come back with a little game. So we are back. And before we play a little game, I think Limore wants to add a little something.
And now it slipped my head. What were we talking about before? I'm so sorry.
Mistakes, shiny.
Oh, making mistakes. No, it still escaped me. Sorry.
First attempt in learning.
Start again.
Okay. Ready? And we are back with Limore, and I want to play a little quick game. It's called Positivity Ping Pong. So I'm going to toss out a word, and you can reply whatever comes to your mind, funny, serious, totally up to you.
Okay.
But let's start with glitter.
Glitter?
Glitter.
Lip gloss.
Ooh. Hope.
Peace.
Hospital socks.
Hospital socks?
Yeah.
I don't know. The first thing that came to me is airplane.
I love that because you wear the fuzzy socks on the airplane.
Yeah.
Strength.
Lion.
Ooh. TikTok.
Dancing.
Spanx.
Dresses.
Hair.
Beauty.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it.
Even though my grandma told me, don't let your hair be your beauty.
It's such a thing. So Limore, I don't know if you know, and I did podcast about this, but I had surgery because they found cancer in my skull. And
oh my God, I didn't know.
I have like this bald spot, which I'm not going to show you right now, but I often am like defined. Part of my brand is my long red hair. And I have this like very large bald spot where the hair is not growing back from my surgery. And it just makes me a little bit shy, a little bit more reserved than I typically am, a little bit self-conscious. And I love this idea of not defining yourself by, your hair or your eyes or whatever that feature is. So I'm going through my own kind of personal journey with that. So I love that you said that that's a piece of advice that you've gotten from your grandma. Love it.
It's interesting. When I lost my hair, I also lost my eyebrows. I lost my eyelashes. And as it was growing back, I've always had long flowing hair my whole life. And I had to learn to feel beautiful with each phase of the regrowth of the hair, which wasn't so simple for me because, if I styled it in this cute little pixie thing, suddenly one day that curl that I got attached to feeling good about myself, suddenly that curl would drop.
Right.
And then I have to learn to restyle and feel good again about my hair. And so what I used to do is take photos of myself completely bald with no eyelashes and no eyebrows. And I would take a photo of myself of that day and just put it side by side and go,
wow,
okay, I need to be grateful for that curl because a couple of months ago, I had no curl happening whatsoever.
For sure.
And when I was about 16, my hair was like way past my waist. And my grandmother, this is the one that had MS, said to me, go cut your hair. I said to
Oh.
her, why? And she goes, you're placing too much energy on your hair
Mm.
versus your personhood. And what's more important is your soul and your energy and what you're giving to people. It's not about your hair.
Wow. It's not
And
about
so I
that.
did.
I love it.
Hmm.
I absolutely love
So, not
it.
to say that everyone that has long hair has to cut it, but it's just in that moment, I was placing my idea of beauty into the hair.
Yeah.
And when you lead with your hair, then you're not letting um, yourself feel good about what you bring to the table, your superpower.
It's true.
And, maybe Samson's superpower was his hair, but everyday people's superpowers are usually their incredible qualities that they bring to the table into this world.
100%. 100%. I think, hair is a whole topic in and of itself, but for me, it's like my security blanket. I kind of hide behind it. So that's why I'm so
Mhm.
attached to it. So it serves different purposes and different meanings, but I am working up even the strength to like wear it back sometimes, because it happens very rarely and people are like, whoa, it's like completely different Nicole, but I'm trying to work up that strength and that positivity.
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah, crazy, right?
Yeah, see, everyone's carrying something. Everyone that you see on the
Everyone,
street, every single person is carrying something. That's
always.
why, we have to be so kind to each other.
Absolutely.
You never
So,
know. Someone could even be mean to you, and you're like,
yeah,
something happened to them that
something.
day. Something happened to them in their life. Maybe they were even born with a personality that is naturally not a happy personality. Imagine being born like that. Imagine going through your life
It's tough.
like that.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, what would you tell someone listening right now who feels like they're drowning in either their diagnosis, their hardship, their negativity? What would you tell them?
I would tell them to first be brave enough to feel what you're feeling.
Mm,
That's the first step, because we try to bottle our feelings and get through things quickly, but we have to remember that our challenges came to teach us something. And so if you're filing it away or not feeling it, then you're not going to be able to learn the lesson. You won't be able to grow from it. It's just going to grow in its difficulty and in its negativity. So if you have an emotion, a big mistake that you made, whatever, feel the shame, feel the
mm.
pain, feel the fear, feel the anger, feel all of that in insecurity. Let yourself feel it for however long you are willing to go through it, and then at a certain point make the decision. It's actually a decision to try something else. And so there is an expression, fake it till you make it, but it actually works. When you smile, it actually sends endorphins through your body. So even if you were
Absolutely.
not in a happy mood before, the act of smiling tricks your brain into thinking that you are happy. So do that. Fake it till you make it, and let the emotions run through you so that you know how to overcome. And part of becoming is feeling the negative feelings. How can you have a comeback from a situation before you've actually gone through anything? And that's what I was thinking of earlier, is that, when my kids go through a difficult time, I always tell them, like, everyone loves a good comeback. Why?
Yes.
Everyone loves hearing about how you went through something challenging in order to rise.
That's
And if you
beautiful.
want to rise, you have to go from somewhere. And
I
if you're going
agree.
from here, you're not rising. You're just staying the same. You're stagnant.
I agree. I
And
think it is a decision.
whatever grows is happy. There's an expression in Hebrew, mashe samach tzomech, whatever is growing is happy. When you think about it in your life, when you're creating something new, when you're creating this podcast, when you're gaining followers, when you're gaining notoriety, when you're expanding your consciousness and learning new things, that's when you're the most happy. Like last night, I taught my daughter how to make gnocchi.
I love it.
She's 11. And so she was rolling and she couldn't believe how independent she could be, because the last batch she did from start to finish by herself.
Wow.
And so she boiled the potatoes and she riced them, and then she mixed them with the flour, and then she boiled new water to make the gnocchi and the sauce and everything. And at the end, she was literally jumping
Oh my
for joy
goodness.
at
What a
the end of the night.
beautiful
She said,
journey.
Mommy, God, Ima, look what I did by myself. Can you believe it? I can be a cook. I said, yes, you can. And it's because she learned something and she grew. And you cannot grow unless you're starting from a lower point.
I love it. I completely agree. I think there's a couple things in there. One is, it is so important to feel the feels. Someone like me, who I grew up in a Russian Jewish household, and the Slavic or the Russian or Eastern European part of my family was like, you do not have feelings. There are no feelings. There is no crying. There is no smiling. We do not do anything. We are stoic. And I grew up that way. And even when my dad was diagnosed with cancer, we weren't allowed to tell anyone when we weren't allowed to cry. We weren't allowed to feel the pain. And for so long, even when after he passed, I felt like I couldn't grieve because I felt like I was brought up in the way that I wasn't allowed to feel. And the older I got, particularly after I became a mom, my feelings just overwhelmingly flooded out. And now I'm a feeler, I can proudly say. And it really has, I think, improved the way I work on myself, the way I parent, the way I connect with people. But I love what you said about the decision making, because it is a decision. Like, I could wallow in pity for, when Marky was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. I wallowed for a long time. And I know you helped me get through because it was so hard. But, I had to make the decision, and it was years later. I wallowed for a long time, but I made the decision, like, I can't stop living. I can't stop happiness. I can't wallow in this forever, and I needed to change. And, slowly I did, but it took a while. But that decision was so important for me in my head to change everything. And so for me, that was a healing moment, that decisionable. Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah. So in the last couple things, I want to ask you, can you leave us with a quote or a message from the book that feels like your personal mantra? I feel like you've shared so much of yourself today.
Personal mantra. I don't know if I have a personal mantra.
That's okay.
I feel like I operate on a frequency that is contagious.
That is true.
And that we have a duty to share light, especially in today's world.
Very true.
In an aggressive fashion.
Yes.
Work on yourself. Everybody has to work on themselves. Don't put any expectations on anyone else but yourself.
I love it. I love it. And I think this really opens up the opportunity to, as you're listening to this, think about it, dig deep and think about what is your superpower? What is your purpose? How are you going to contribute? I opened up by saying you're a ray of light. And I think everyone who has just listened or watched or saw a clip of this podcast, they can feel the warmth, the light, the energy, the positivity radiating through the screen or through their headphones or in their car speakers. I am eternally grateful for you as a human, that I even know you and connect with you, but that you would come on to the podcast is amazing and a dream come true. And I'd love to ask, where can our listeners find aggressive positivity, and how can they keep soaking up your magic? Where can they find you?
Okay, so first of all, the book is available on Amazon. And so is By My Mother's Hand, My Grandfather's Story. It is truly remarkable if you want to read about someone whose entire life was taken away from him and turned it around. It's a remarkable read. It's a very quick read. Aggressive Positivity is available on Amazon. It's also available as an audiobook on Spotify and Audible.
Amazing.
And you can follow me on Instagram on Aggressive Positivity Official. And also I have a Limore music page where you can see all of my music that I have created and continue to create right now. And I think maybe that might be the topic of a different
podcast. Yes. You know what? I'm going to link all of that. I'm going to link the books, the audiobooks, and where people can find you, because I know people are going to be so inspired. Thank you so much. I love you. Thank you.
Love you. Thank you for having me on.
Yay.